Welcome back to the Genuine Ginger podcast. You may have noticed the little cover photo update and name update. It's just needed to be simpler. So, the Genuine Ginger podcast. Here we are. I'm happy to be here. Your hostess, Mackenzie Quintana, and we have been the last couple episodes have been talking about thoughts to try on, just to kind of shake your world up, maybe shift things and get you in a better mindset. And we will continue that. However, today I wanted to talk about something else. Just to make things a little interesting today, we're gonna shift gears and we're gonna talk about women's cycles, aka your period. This might be a little bit weird, but I cannot tell you how impactful this information, this knowledge has been for me, as a woman, as a mom, to just recognize that my period isn't just the 3 to 5 days a month that I am bleeding. So if that is where, like, if that's the only kind of, not mindset, but the only view you have of your period, the only scope that you have of your period, get ready, because there's so much more to your period, and it's actually really amazing and really just awesome once you kind of unpack it all. So, hold on one sec. Okay, I just needed to do a tech check real fast there. Okay, so your period actually has your cycle. Your female cycle actually has 4 different parts to it. So your menstruation, that is where you bleed, right? That is the part where you bleed, and that time is going to vary from women to women, but that is the beginning. That is when you first start bleeding. That is day 1 of your cycle. After that, we have the follicular phase, and we're going to dive in. We're going to kind of unpack them all in a minute. But next is the follicular phase. Again, it's going to vary from women to women, but it's going to be probably, oh geez, I actually don't know for sure the right numbers. I'd like a week to, or like 5 days, I think, to a week is probably normal. Then you have ovulation, which is like around 5 days as well. And then luteal or luteal. I've heard it said both ways. And that is like, for some women, it's almost like 2 weeks long. So, why, who cares? Why are we talking about this? We're not in 8th grade health class, right? So I'm about to tell you why it is so important, especially if you're a mom. But like, it's so important for you to understand more than just the names, and that, when you're ovulating is when your egg drops, when you're menstruating it's when you're bleeding. So I'm going to start with the follicular, because that's where I'm at right now. Your follicular. And if you want a little trick to remember the names, the follicular is the first half. So follicular, first half. That is when your body is naturally, where do we start? Let's start with menstruation, because that is actually where we start here. So menstruation is, like I said, day 1 of your period, of your cycle, is when you start your period. And I think we all know that we're usually pretty low energy around this time. It varies. I will say it varies from women to women. But for the most part, sometimes we're crampy, backaches. If you're like me, you have like this really annoying, intense pressure in your pelvis. TMI maybe, but it's terrible. And so it's kind of more of like, physically you're uncomfortable. Yeah, you're probably a little bit cranky because you're physically uncomfortable, right? And so, like, I have seen it said to, when you are on your period, like, pretend like you're sick. Treat yourself like you're sick. Take, if you can, I mean, you probably can't if you're like working, have a out of home job, but if you own your business, if you work from home like I do, like, schedule your time so that you can just rest those days. You can have down days. You can just give yourself extra care, extra self-care, because you're like, literally your body is not going to be in the best function for you to be operating at your best function, right? Okay. That was some great word choice there, Kenzie. But you get what I mean. So that's pretty, we all pretty much know that. Then we move into our follicular, and that is when we start to have our energy levels start to go up. We start to feel like we are human again. And that is where I am at right now. And I am just so glad, because I had a rough luteal and menstruation. And so like you kind of start to come out of this like slump. So menstruation is also symbolic of winter. So like you're hibernating in winter, right? And then follicular is like spring. So we get that like energy where we're like, oh yes, like I am finally a human again. I can function. I feel a little bit better. It's like a breath of fresh air. And that is when you are going to be best to, like, that's when, if you're a mom, then you're like, all right, like, let's get things planned. Let's get activities planned. Let's sign the kids up for soccer and like all the things. And you start to just be like, let's go out and plan things. You're feeling good. You're feeling like you want to get out. And like, if you're like me, you're probably just feeling really ambitious and really excited about life, and maybe not that much, but you get what I mean. That's kind of the energy that you have. Think spring, right? And so you are probably going to be in a better mood those days. You're going to be a little bit more likely to maybe say yes to your kids. You're going to be a little bit more likely to be a little bit more patient with your kids, do more things, be more involved with them. That's just going to come more naturally during the follicular phase. Then we move into the ovulation, and it's that energy even more. So that's when you're like, let's go places, let's go to the library, let's go to the park, let's go, on a bike ride, let's do all the things, let's get out the arts and crafts, or, whatever. Like, you are just full of energy. That is when maybe you want to go visit people, you want to have friends over, you're just like, that is when you're going to probably feel your best. Most women is when they're in ovulation. For me, that is when I'm like, I have got this mom thing down. Like, I can be so patient with my kids. I am in such a good mood. Like, life is great. I got this. Like, why did I ever worry about anything? I am on fire. I am the best. You're just confident. You feel confident in your body. You feel like you look good. Like, you're just like, yes, I am amazing. I'm so patient. I got this. I got this mom thing down. I got this wife thing down. Whatever. I got this. Then we move into the luteal phase, and that energy starts to kind of wind down. And I personally feel like within the luteal phase, there's almost like two different phases to it. For me anyways, the first while of the luteal phase is I'm just kind of like, okay, that was fun. Now let's like wrap things up. Let's get that's usually when you're like, you kind of maybe get into that little bit of like mom rage cleaning, where you're like, why is this all stuff such a big mess? Like, let's clean it up. Come on, let's like wrap things up. We got to get that done. Check off my to-do list, blah, blah, blah. Like, and then you maybe start to be a little bit less friendly with your kids, and you're just kind of like, okay, come on. Yeah. Like, we got to get this done. Kind of just more of that energy. That's maybe when you get into like your cleaning frenzies. And you don't have you're just not quite as like feeling that like just starry-eyed sunshine mood. Oh, so ovulation is like summer. I forgot to mention that. That's when you're like, let's go out, let's do things. That's like your summer energy, right? Then luteal is fall. So makes sense, right? We're kind of starting to like slow down. Things are starting to change. You're like wrapping things up. And sometimes maybe there are good days where it's like sunny, and then there's other days where it might feel like cold and windy, like on the inside, right? And then you get into, for me at least, like the last like 3 or 4 days of my luteal, this is where the PMS, like the like stereotypical PMS comes in, which when I was in high school, I always heard PMS and thought like, how you're feeling when you're on your period. But it wasn't until like later that it like clicked, like, no, PMS stands for premenstrual symptoms. Menstrual is when you're on your period, when you are bleeding. These are the symptoms that you have before. And for me, I have zero patience for my kids for the most part. I still try, right? Like, I don't try to just use these as like excuses to just be a total witch, but I still try to be patient with my kids. But it is very hard. This is when it's like I need a sign on my forehead that says, do not talk to me, do not mess with me. If I am like these like ending days of my luteal and one of my kids like wants to, push my button, I'm like, oh, really? Okay, you want to do this? We're gonna, like, it's like, do not mess with me. Like, mean mommy is in town and she's here to stay for a few days. That's how I threaten my kids, is I tell them that mean mommy is going to come out. So on those days, it is mean mommy is here to stay. And that is usually when we are the most hard on ourselves. At least for me, that is when I have the downward spirals of, why can't I just do this right? Why can't I just be patient with my kids? Why can't, like, a week ago, I was doing all the things, I was being consistent with my goals, and now I just want to cry on the floor and I can't do anything. And why am I the way that I am? And I wish that I could just be consistent. I wish that I could just do all the things all the time. Like, we are so hard on ourselves during this part of our cycles, and I think that is so important for you to recognize. Oh, we have an intruder. The reason that I am sharing this is especially for this part of the cycle. Close the door, please. Because you have to just give yourself grace when it comes to this part of your cycle. The weather inside your body, the makeup of your body, your hormones, everything is just not in your favor right now. You could do your very best to be the most patient, loving, kind person, and you will probably still fall short. So give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. Do not expect yourself to be the woman that you are on your ovulations and during your ovulation part of your cycle while you are in your luteal, and especially the tail end of your luteal cycle. It is nearly impossible from my experience. Like, and it's so crazy because like I will be like, sometimes I'll be like, it's almost like I can see myself from the outside and I'll be like completely losing it with my kids. And inside my head, I'm like, wow, Ken's like, you're really getting upset over this little tiny thing that's really not a big deal. And like, that's like, I'm having those thoughts, but inside my brain and on the outside, I am like screaming and like losing it with my kids. But it's like, I can't stop it. Like, it's just like, it's out of it almost feels like it's out of my control. And that's because in a way it almost is, because your hormones are hormoning during this phase, during this part of your cycle. So just give yourself grace. This is the fall, and then we move back into the menstruation. And if you're like me, once your period starts, then you're just like, oh, okay. Okay, I see now. One of my friends, when we talk about this, I don't remember where she heard it, but she heard someone say that she sees red until she sees red, meaning like she is angry, red in the face, until she sees red in like the blood of that she's finally on her period. So like I said, the point of me sharing this is just to recognize that you are going to have ebbs and flows, and that is completely normal. You don't need to be hard on yourself. You need to give yourself grace. And if you can, plan ahead. If you know, like, you're going to be on your, when you're heading into your luteal, and especially those last few days of your luteal phase, just plan to have those be days where it's just screen time and like order pizza and get frozen dinners, like just whatever you can do ahead of time to make it easier on yourself during those days, the end of your luteal and then in your menstruation. But for me, like 2 or 3 days, like I have like 2 or 3 days where I am just like hormonal, like emotionally unstable and just crazy. And then I'll be like kind of normal for like a day or two, and then my period will start, and then I'm like physically kind of uncomfortable and stuff. So I also was going to mention, I don't quote me on this because it was just someone said this, and I haven't like actually researched it to see if it was true, but I have heard that you can, like, a woman's body, because of like the changes that we go through with these 4 different cycles, it is like chemically all looks like 4 completely different bodies, like 4 completely different chemical hormonal makeups of our body during each phase of our period. So it's no wonder that maybe we feel like 4 completely different people sometimes. We have like 4 different personalities, right? Like, and like I said, don't beat yourself up over that. Like, I remember, especially when I'm like in my follicular and ovulation, it's like, yes, when you're like, I got this. Like, I know what I'm doing right. I know how to fix the things that I'm not doing. Like, I got this. I can be consistent. I can do this. And then your luteal hits and your menstrual fits and hits, and you're like, why? Why can't I just be that woman that I was a week ago? Why can't I just do all the things? And it's because you don't have the same energy. It's because you don't have the same hormones firing. You don't, like, chemically your body is not the same. So just, I know I've said it a million times, but give yourself grace. And like I said, plan ahead if you can. If you want to go, like, like I try to, like, if we're going to have a date night, okay, let's have a date night when I'm on my follicular or my ovulation energy, because that's when I'm going to want to go out and do things. If I'm going to, like, plan to have, host someone at my house, if I get to have any say about when the dates are, I'm going to choose, like, during when I'm on my follicular and ovulation. Like just start to play around with that, notice it, see how you can just make things easier on yourself now that you have this information, knowing what you know. And again, give yourself grace. Don't expect to be the same person that you are all month long, because you literally physically are not the same person all month long. And even if you aren't, like, if you've, had surgery or whatever, if you aren't actually menstruating, like, you still have these cycles in your body. So just start to note. It might be take a little bit more effort to kind of pick up on them. But just start to notice the energy, start to notice your mood and your emotions. And I bet you anything, you will, like, if you start to track it, you'll notice, like, oh, when I'm in this cycle, I feel this way. When I'm in this, you might even have, like, the same cravings or the same, tendencies of wanting to do things or not do things. So just start to notice it, play around with it. And I can promise you it will be so amazing and so helpful for you in your life as a woman. And like I said, especially as a mom. So as always, I hope this was helpful, and I'd love to hear any insights, or, like, if this is news to you, I want to hear it. I want to hear your ahas. So you can go to my website, thegenuineginger.com, and at the bottom there's a comment section. What is it called? I just forgot. But you can find it on there, or you can leave a comment wherever you're listening to this. You can go to my Instagram. It's the.genuine.ginger. You can send me a message there. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love it if you shared this, if this was helpful for you. And like I said, it has been something that has just blown my mind and been so helpful for me to not be so hard on myself and just to give myself grace. So I hope the same for you. And we will talk to you later. Bye.